Welcome to this guided series for new players to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. In the previous part we were working on our construction area and there's a lot to build out there. So I thought in this video I'm going to cover 3, possibly 4 things. The first is we're going to talk about the use of radio on the map, which I'll expand slightly to cover TV as well because they are very closely related. We are then going to set up our manual construction office here for laying track. Then the third part, I want to take a look at my actual farm here. We can hopefully we'll be able to see the end of the harvest. And then finally, if there's time, I want to talk about something you can do if you when you start considering planning your expansion out for your second town. Now, I've already built the radio station here, and you'll see straight away that it's actually an historic radio station. This is one of my favorite ones. I think it's by Navarra. Now, before we get into the details of what you can do with the radio station, I just need to talk about the research. And if we come to the Technical University and go down the bottom, click on the research tree, what you need to be aware of is that before you can get radio, is you've got to research this tree here. So you've got to do Introduction to Broadcasting, and then what you do is you use the technical office to search radio broadcasting, and that's the blue going across. That also applies to television and television station setup. Now, to actually build a television station, you've got to research both these texts. Now, what that does is allow you to build the building, but it doesn't give you control of what is being broadcast. To do that, you need a Soviet university, and then for the radio, you've got to research influence of radio broadcast, and to be able to configure the television one, you need influence of television broadcast. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that radio stations are in a very small group of buildings that operate fully across the map, and by operate across the map means that technically you only need to ever build one radio station, one TV station on your entire map. And that's the reason why if you come into here and if you actually look at the vanilla radio station, it is absolutely huge, like this. And I think the thinking of the devs is to make it, because you technically only have to build one. The devs have made this a very expensive building to actually produce. You can see it takes 11,913 work days, 396 tons of steel. To be honest, I absolutely hate that building. The reason is because it is so big, and invariably you end up building the radio station in your first town. And as you can see, this town here, yes, it could grow to justify having that radio station, but it just doesn't fit. And the thing I want to show you is that that big radio station needs 100 ordinary workers and 50 educated workers to operate, where this building is only slightly smaller in the fact that it's got 80 staff and 40 actors, moderators, who are your highly educated staff. So the only real difference between building the vanilla one is the size, and this is the reason why I actually like this building here, because it fits the scale of the town. But what I do sometimes is that because it does operate across the full map, what I will do in the late game is if I get to the center of the map, I will build the vanilla one in the center of the town when I feel it fits into context. Although you technically only need one radio station, one TV station, but there's no reason why you can't build more to improve your immersion. While we're talking about the only buildings that you can build, is there are several other buildings that have maybe not an influential effect on the whole map, but they do have a what we'd call an entire map area effect. Now, if you've got crime and justice enabled, there's 2 buildings in there which operate on a kind of entire map level. One's the courthouse. So what you do is you can build a courthouse, and then any crime that needs to be tried across your map. So if, say, for example, you've got 3 towns, you can build a single courthouse, and then that courthouse will try all the crimes that are operating in that area. However, what you need to be aware of is that eventually, as your economy grows, that courthouse will become overloaded. So it's not like similar to the TV station or the radio station. Eventually, you will have to build a second or third courthouse, but these courthouses will operate completely across the map. And in a similar vein, the prisons do something similar as well, in the fact that your prison, anyone convicted across the map will be sent to the nearest prison. The reason I say the nearest prison is the fact that prisons will fill up as your economy grows. Now, there is one other building that operates completely across the map. Now, and it is available, if I remember correctly, it's under education, is the orphanage. Now, the orphanage works in a similar way like a prison, but in the context of children. What this building does is whenever a adult worker dies, or for some reason you've got escapees, when you don't have an orphanage, you also lose the associated children. But if you build an orphanage, what will happen is those children will be sent to the orphanage. What I would strongly recommend is, unless you really want rapid growth, do not build orphanages. The reason is that they've got a nasty sting in the tail. The fact that once you build the first orphanage, it becomes expected within the game. And what happens is, if your orphanages fills up, and this is particularly relevant if you're playing with crime and justice enabled, if the children can't get in the orphanage, so you get a situation like you can get with universities, where you've got students who are waiting to be educated. If that happens with an orphanage, what the effect you get is that the children who don't get in the orphanage often get very low loyalty, and more importantly, they get influenced by crime. Orphanages can be a breeding home for crime and also low loyalty. So even if you're playing at this level, don't build orphanages unless you really, really need them. And I mean, I will do them in the mid to late game, but I would not put one in my first town. That digression apart, let's just get into the radio station. Once you've got your first radio station and you've done all the appropriate research, what that happens is you can unlock these sliders. And what these sliders do is give you the ability to influence certain traits across the entire map. I'm not sure why I've got there, by actually adjusting these sliders. And what I would strongly recommend is your radio is about building up the loyalty. As I've mentioned in a previous video, that loyalty always trends down. If you can set your sliders so that you have a positive effect on loyalty, and what will happen is those of workers who've access to radios will not decline in loyalty so quickly, but more importantly, what will happen is they will actually start to increase loyalty. Now, the other thing I want to show you is that at the moment the government loyalty is 59%, and this is at 40%. So what I'm going to do is push this up to 55%, because the higher the loyalty of the staff that you actually have inside of your radio station, and it's similar to the way schools work, the higher their loyalty is, the more influence they will have your citizens. But now, the other thing I will draw your attention to is that if you improve the cultural effect, what that means is that your citizens stay at home to listen to the radio rather than going out to get their culture. The other thing also, I've got a slight positive happiness here. The question, if you for some reason you've got to use the radio to increase your happiness, what you want to ask yourself is very much is, what's wrong with your economy? So what I'm saying is that radio station, TV station is about pushing up your loyalty, but there is a cap. So don't expect your loyalty to get much higher than 60-70% even with the radio, because to go higher, what you have to do is provide your citizens with personal transport. Now, I'll give you a quick tip now: never rush to personal transport, simply because what will happen is the moment you start providing cars, one, your fuel consumption will go through the roof, because every car will consume fuel, but also more importantly, what will happen is that you will end up with quite serious traffic jams. But there is a positive side with private cars, in the fact that you can drivers of private cars will have a wider travelling range, so that you can, say, a small industry like this with a car park next to it, your residents will drive to your smaller industries. So I think that covers radio. If you want to stay true to the game, build the big one. If not, there's a whole load of very, very good mods that kind of produce radio and TV stations that are a bit more in keeping with what you're trying to build. So that completes the section on radio. What we're going to do now is look at our rail construction office. Now, what I've done here is I've already set up the prefab steel and gravel on an auto purchase, but I've also got a distribution office delivering the surplus. The reason for that is that it's important to get a strong supply to your rail construction office, so that your track lane operation is very effective. And the reason I've gone for an auto purchase is, you can see we've got a lot of track laying here, and I'd certainly like to do it with a track lane train, if not for no other reason that every track has, the same with buildings, has a worker construction cost. So that saves a little bit of money, even if you are kind of auto purchasing. So the first problem is that if I click on here, now we've got auto purchase, so I can come into here and actually buy a track layer. But what I want to show you guys is what will happen if, say, you're playing on realistic mode, because what would happen then is if you clicked on here, it will say that your construction office has no contact or no connection with a customs post. So to be able to buy a track layer in the actual construction office itself, is you actually got to have a track that goes to the border post. But of course, if you starting from scratch in realistic mode, it's a chicken and egg situation, in the fact that you have to lay the track to get the connection, but you can't buy a track layer until you've actually laid the track. And the way that the devs solve this is, if I come down to here and we come into here and I go to this section here, you'll see that there's a kind of odd vehicle type called disassembled. Now what this is, I'll just turn off the workshop items just to keep it clear. Now this can also apply to, if I put this back on, trains, because there could be a situation where you may want to have start with a train depot that's not connected to the border, and this is mainly set up for people who want to do an island challenge where you've got to import your trains and wagons, and in a similar vein to what I'm just about to describe, is that even if you import the wagons, you've still got to move the wagons to the rail depot. So what you actually end up with is an option here. It's called disassembled. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buy this, and what you'll see is that it will now turn up in here as an item, but because it's disassembled, it won't move on its own accord. So what you've got to do is open this up, come to this question mark here, and then what this will list is the vehicles that will be capable of carrying this disassembled unit. Now, one tip here, guys, is just because you can buy something at the border doesn't necessarily mean you will have the vehicles to be able to carry it. Just an example, if I go back to the custom shed, go back to purchase here, go to disassembled, and these are mod ones. Now see these cranes here, the Kirov and the number 7704 crane. Now these are quite useful cranes to actually have, but the problem is, because they're modded, the only trucks that can carry these, and I know this for a fact, are actually NATO trucks, because the Soviet trucks at this point are not strong enough to actually carry these disassembled units. But be very much aware of that feature. And what I would suggest is that if you're not sure, drop a save. Oops, I just want to clear these, because the reason for that will become apparent in a little while. So the next question is, how do we get the disassembled unit to the construction office? And the way you've got to do it is, we know the truck, so we come in here, find an open hole. I think that's 62, you're 80. I think you might be a little bit more useful, because something I will be talking about later in the video is about the need to kind of upgrade your vehicles over time. So what we do is we come in here, and down the bottom here it says open vehicle and containers. So what you need to do is tell it to come into here and into here. And what we'll do is we'll just click on this, and we'll see the truck just speed the game up a bit. And what you'll see now is that, well, he always goes to the gas station every time you buy a truck. It will always go to the gas station first, and actually, because it's in the dark, it's actually might be the, and what you'll see is the truck will go into there, and then if you look very carefully, you'll see that the disassembled is on the back of the truck. And then what you do is just follow the truck up through till it gets to the construction office. Now, normally, or most people, and I've done it, is the construction office is very close to the border because that's where the rail connection would come in. But of course, with this map, I chose the initial rail connection to be somewhere else. And you can see what this truck now done is actually dropped off the, let's just move you over there, and you can see that is now available to use. Now, one thing you do need to do is send the truck back to the depot. The reason for this is the fact that if you don't send it back to the depot, what will happen is it will quite happily run backwards and forwards between the border and the construction office ad infinitum, burning fuel. So we'll send the truck back. Now, what you'll notice now is that the current number of workers is 20. Now, the reason for that is that, similar to fire stations, the workforce will relate to the number of workers needed to drive that construction train. The more bigger and faster they are, the more workers they will require. Now, the next thing we got to do is something which I meant to do before I started the video, but I forgot, so I can use this as a... Now, I think we're going to set you there, load there. We're going to take the workers to there. I always like to, and then of course what we'll do is come there, and I think we're just going to use 2 buses. These buses are the old ones from the workers route to our manufacturing, and I've just been keeping them as an opportunity. Now I need to make sure that I've actually got workers coming into here. While the buses are coming out here to pick up our first workers, I just want to show you something. Now, what I've got here is I'm allowing workers into this metro station. Now, it doesn't mean I've built the metro. If I come down here, you can see the track hasn't been built. What I'm doing here is taking advantage of a characteristic in the game. That is the way workers look for work. Now, what happens is a worker from one of these apartment blocks here, the first thing they will always do is look for work within walking distance. Then after that, they will then probably go to their nearest bus stop to look for work. This also applies to ordinary passengers, people who are looking for education and other resources if you unlock them here. Now, what happens next is that the workers will stay in a bus station for about an hour in game time, and if they don't find any work or the service they're looking for, what they will do then is move to another location or bus stop. So what you can do by doing this is 2 things. One, you can kind of extend the range of your workers, because say for example you've got a worker over here, comes to here and then decides to go to there. And when they get there, then they start the search. But strangely, they can also look for any jobs within walking distance. And because this is in walking distance, just show you this. What that means is that a worker from over here can possibly get all the way out to here. So what you can do by doing this is actually extend the range. The other thing I've also done is I've been a bit sneaky, and this is something you can do with both metro stations, rail stations, even tram stations. And what I've done is I've actually put my construction office on here. So what's happening is that when the construction office, looks like the construction office might have run out of jobs. Yes, he has. Okay. We need to fix that. What I'm trying to do at the moment is get some of this stuff built, because I'm kind of prepping for that's built for the liquid distribution in this area. And what you will see is, I don't know if we're going to get any buses out on this at the moment, but what will happen is that these buses will come down to here and pick up. Now, one tip I will say is do not use this as a substitute bus stop for a bus route, but you can get away with it for a route with a single bus on, because obviously this has only got 1 or 2 pickup points. I think this has only got 1, but it does work for construction offices. Anyway, I don't know if we've got any. Oh, it looks like while I've been rabbiting on, we've actually got the workers in here. Now, what you will see is that the way this actually works is you've actually got the auto detect on, and the train will lay here. Now, if you watched my earlier video about how to plan your tracks, what you will see, and this has got a very small guy, what you do is, and this is the reason why you lay the concrete track first, because you can see you laid this section of track to here, which is a short section, but he will keep going into the next section. And what he'll do is keep going into the next section as long as he's got the resources. Now, if you plan a electro track, this is this track here, what will happen is that the train will only lay that section for one job. And then what will happen after that, they will go back and pick up the electro components. So what you actually do is so what you actually do is so laying the concrete track first is really speeds up the process. Although this guy's very slow, sorry, I'm going to get a bit impatient here. Now, what I am going to do is actually going to buy this thing, but what I am going to do is actually sell this guy, because when you're first starting out, don't buy two track layers until you've got through this initial construction phase and that you are starting to push out here. Now, by having this, you can see that the actual building says that this needs 60 workers, but at the moment it's operating with 16 workers. And that's an example of the fact that you need to get the strong workforce in there, but at the same time, if you don't have the full workforce in there, what will happen is your track layer will keep working. That also applies to the fact that you can see straight away, you've just got some extra workers, he's just speeded up a little bit now. So the actual track laying speed is related to the number of workers that you're actually getting in. And of course, he's got to an end track now. And what you'll see is he's going to go back in again. Now, another tip I will give you, and you can't, as far as I know, you can't actually see what the train has got loaded on it, but you can see it graphically. But how far the train actually goes depends on how much it actually picks up. You can see this has got the extra work. Now, if you watch the wagons, you'll see that the wagons are slowly empty. So it won't tell you how much this track layer is actually carrying, but what he will do, he's obviously got some more workers come in. He will actually, yeah, you can see that that's just disappeared, which means he's starting to run out. But if you don't give him a full load, they will still go out, but they just won't lay so much. So when you're laying track, it's important that you do keep the maximum load in there. And so now what we got here is just a little bit here, and I'll show you this. Now he's going to come out again, and this is a quirk of how the game actually works. Now that's what I was hoping he would do. Now logically you would have thought, because he went down this way, he'd come out and actually finish this, but because that wasn't his initial job, so to try and explain that is we got two tracks. So this one was picked up before this one. When he went back to the station, because that job was finished, he picks up this one simply because that, yeah, so he only had a little bit of resources in there at the moment. I'll see if I can show it to you. I'm a bit worried about the fact that this hasn't been picked up. I think what we might do is just allocate that in there. So what we should do, if we watch him now, he's got quite a lot on, and oops, we've got some research done. What I'm trying to do at the moment is push through some research which I need for, oops, I can't remember. I won't talk about it too much, but we need steel materials fatigue. We're not ready for a steel mill yet, but we do need steel materials fatigue. That, believe it or not, is preparation for a video which might be a couple in the future. But if we continue watching this train here, and we watch, see if we'll do this track. Yeah, he's obviously hasn't got much of a workforce at the moment. The new workforce have come in a bit late, and he actually finished the track, but he didn't have enough resources to go to the next one. So what he should do now is come out and finish this one. Nope. Nope, this one must not have finished. So this is a good example. What you should do now is go through it here, and you will go into the next one. And what happens is that this one here, 303, which is this one, gets added to the bottom of the list like that as a job to be done. But what should happen is that this train, when he runs out, he'll go back in, and then he'll come back to 417, which is here, which has got a little bit left to do. Wow, he's actually pushing out here quite nicely, actually. So what he'll do now is go back out to this way. Now I know some of you, I know you might be thinking, why is he labouring this? Because what I'm trying to do is illustrate a point, especially when the construction train gets a fair distance, gets to a point where it's outside the range of the auto search. So what we can do is just let him build this. What you do now, so he's built this, and what you should do now is actually come and do this one. But what I also want to do is just add those there, and I'm actually going to remove 303. Oops, yeah, cancel. No. What we're going to do is suspend that, remove it, and then what I'm going to do is put him back in again. So it's at the end of the queue. The reason for that is that I want to show you what happens with these sections here, because it's quite important. Plus the fact that we need to finish this section before we start. Also, there's a little section there that needs to be built. So the auto detect is connection with this office does not exist. I'm not exactly sure what's causing that. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really make a difference, really, because we've got the crossover there. I'll try and fix it, but be a little bit careful. Now, of course, with these trains, I think that might not have. Now, the track near the construction office, yeah, I think that was, the connection wasn't done properly. Oh, and what I've done is I actually missed it. Now, we're just going to let that run again. I'll show you. Now, this is a feature that's was added. I can't remember what update it was, but before it was added, laying track manually became a little bit of a gymnastic exercise, because you used to have to create these very complex back loops, because the construction trains wouldn't turn around on the track. The construction trains are the only trains that will do it. But the advantage is that these construction trains, because they can back up now, you can build this and build this, where in the past, to build this, you would have had to gone out, created a loop, and come back the opposite way. But what you'll see is this train will now lay out this track here. Yeah, obviously we're not either getting the resources or the workforce. We're getting the workforce, but I don't think we're getting the resources. Show you something else that it would possibly do, because you can see this bit of track is technically available as a job. Now, I'm not going to put a guarantee on this, but there's a possibility that this train will do this section and then go on to this section. Yep. And you can see what he's going to do is go all the way up to here, and then he will start allocating this. That's just the normal rule, not because it's been allocated within the construction office here. It's just following the road ahead. And the idea of this is to make laying track a lot more efficient. He will go back the quick way. And in theory, what he should do now is go to 1410, which is this one here. I just want to see where he goes. And yeah, so you can see what he's done is that this is why sometimes when you follow the track builder seems to be kind of partly doing a job. And the reason for that is that what will happen now is that this track builder will come up here, and if he gets a little bit left here, he will then pick up this job. Now that seems great, but one thing you've got to watch with the track builders is that, as I say, as they get further and further away, they will start following the road ahead until they reach a building or a junction where they can't make up their mind. So what you can end up if you're not paying attention is, say for example, the track builder would come out here, follow this road here, and the next thing you'll find out that there's a single line of track virtually all the way to the border or up round here. So by all means, let the track builder work on the auto, in fact, but at the same time, be aware that they can be a little bit of kind of unpredictable. And just to wind this section, I'm just going to talk. What I'm going to do is we're going to get the. I think what we'll do is we'll put a crossover here, and this is how you need to plan the manual track. We're going to put these are construction crossovers. I'm going to put a construction crossover there, and we need to lay this. I'd like to get all the way out to. We're going to need a construction crossover here. Now, these construction crossovers are ways that you can open up new track for ordinary trains, which will probably the best way to explain this is that the construction trains still respect signals. In order to open up a section of track for use by your trains, you need to put crossovers in which allow the construction trains to follow the rules of the road according to signals to a point where they can then go up either side of the track. And the reason I've kind of isolated this area is that this is our fuel input area here. Just we'll need to make sure that's set to fuel. Just want to do this as well, because if I delivered the train here when these hadn't been set, if the first train to come in here was fuel, we'd end up in fuel in both of them. That needs to be built. Anyway, back to what I was saying is that once all this is built and electrified, what I can do then is open up this set of tracks, signal it to so that ordinary trains can come out here, the construction train can come out here, and then use these crossovers to swap backwards and forwards to build the next sections of track. Because the reason I've done these spurs is the fact that well, this spur technically is not needed now, actually, come to think of it. I'm actually going to get rid of this, I think. I mean, we've got a back curve there. Yeah, I don't think I actually need this now. I put it in, but I've changed it. Yeah, I think what we can do is just get rid of this completely, actually. That kind of tidies the track up a bit. And what we can do is just use the button here. And we can connect this track up like that. And then what that means is I can move that, and that simplifies that junction down quite nicely, actually. I think that will work, and then we don't need that track there. I think that covers everything to do with rail construction offices. As I say, you can leave them to get on and do their own thing, but keep an eye on them, because you can see he's already off this way. And what he will do is ignore this section and then push out this way. Now, they tend to get a little bit kind of target fixation. So eventually, in fact, I think what I'll do is he's probably got 2 allocated jobs. So what you can do is say, right, I want you to do that and that. And you just allocate the job manually. They will carry on doing their own thing. They will lay that track and then come back and do this bit. And what they would do is then just follow this out to the point where they get out to here. But what all we're going to need to do is build the track out as far as here. So we don't want them wandering any further, because with the crossover, what you need to do is do the crossover and then a length of track beyond the crossover, which is longer than the construction train. And what that means is that construction train can do its kind of bit of gymnastics of coming in, turning around and reversing back the other way. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that, and this is something very important when you're playing, especially when you start in 1960, is the fact, if you look at the farm, we're on the 21st of November. Oh, we got fire again. Where is that? Oh, that's okay. Our fire crews can cover that. What you see here is that we've got a bit of a situation here, in the sense that we're on the 21st of November and it doesn't look like our farms are actually getting all the crops, which is possibly down to the fact that we've probably got the fertility up pretty high. Yeah, they're all 150, 150. So it looks like we're not really running all that efficiently. Plus, I suspect that this field is kind of causing a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to do is put you back down to the bottom. Come there, put you back on, make you the last field to be sown, because I think we're wasting time sending a tractor all the way out here to do that one first. Now, the other reason that this could happen is the fact that if we come into here, we've got these very old tractors. In fact, we could probably do with another covered hole in here actually as well. Capacity over speed, year 7.2, year 10. I think what I might do is get a truck that's a little bit smaller but faster. But back to here, you can see that at the moment this farm's got T28 tractors in it. What it pays to do is to come in. Yeah, we should be able to do it in here. If I come in here, you'll see that we've got T28 tractors. So what you need to do from time to time is take a look at here. I'm just going to turn the workshop off. There's a bit of a quirk here actually as well. I don't know if you guys saw it. Actually, let me just search by capacity. Go there, put on sowing. You've actually got reindeer snowplows. This is a mod by Novara. Now I've got a bit of a dilemma, guys. I was going to turn off this and sort it by capacity. So we've got two trucks here, and we've got this. This is the one we currently got. It's got a sowing speed of 17. This one's got a sowing speed of 24. Now I'm going to give you a tip, and this is going to take you down the rabbit hole of mods. Now there is a tractor here which is available from 1962 to 2002, and it's the K700 tractor. Apologies, I can't remember who makes it, and this has got a speed, a sowing speed of 40, but this is probably one of the fastest tractors that you will find in the game. So what I'm going to do is we're going to sell off these things. We're going to get rid of all these tractors. I must admit, doing it this way, it may feel cumbersome because you've got to manually delete each one. This is a lot easier to do than what you'd have to do if you were doing this in realistic mode, because in realistic mode you'd have to send all these to be scrapped, and then you'd have to import them all from the border again. And what we're going to do in here is come here, sowing, put the mod workshop on, and every time you put the workshop on is we're going to sort by capacity. Now the moment previously we had 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, is it 2 4 6 8. What we could probably do now is get away with 1 2 3 4 5 6 of these, because these have got more than twice the capacity. If I show you here, not only do they go a lot faster than the old one, they've also got a higher sowing speed. So in theory we should be able to accomplish exactly what we were doing with 8 tractors with 6 tractors. And what that will do is open up some extra slots for some covered holes. The other thing I just want to check very quickly is we'll look at the harvesting. Now I'm just going to turn the mod off. and we're filtered by harvesting. So we've still only got this one here, but one tip I will give you, if I hadn't spent my money, is there's this Matador here, which comes from NATO. And you can see this has got a sowing speed of 30. And if we go back to this one, this has got a sowing speed of 24. If you want a bit of a marginal increase on your combines, you can actually purchase the one from the NATO shed, assuming you've got access to it. But unfortunately, I spent all my NATO dollars. What I really should do is set up an export route to NATO so that I can start making some dollars. Now, of course, replacing those tractors won't make that much difference at the moment, but they will make a difference with spreading the fertilizer, and more importantly, with the actual sowing. The last thing I want to do in this video is up here, because what we got, so we've got research again. So this isn't a normal path, but it's something I do want to show you in the future. We need to go to pipeline pressure. So, oops, is it pipeline pressure? I'm just going to build that. Why is this? How's the? It's up to 65. I think we can push you to 57. While we're here, I'm just going to very quickly. I want my schools up to push you to 55. We want that really strong positive influence on our students. Well, you're low, way too low. I think what I might do is grand monuments. Actually, I think I'm going to unlock high quality living here, because I don't think I've got all the vanilla buildings. So I think we'll get our party officials on that. Back to what I want to do for the final part of this video. And this is something you can consider, but bear in mind that I'm only doing this because we're near the border. So what I want to do is we're going to put in a construction office here. What I'm basically going to do is build a road crew. We need 3 excavators. I love you, game. But we can fix that with, we're going to put a free one in. Like that. Oh, actually, just remove you actually. Because this is only a temporary, there's no point wasting money on a road. Turn off the auto detect, and we're just going to buy a couple of excavators, 1, 2, to shove them in there. What I've done here is so that I can get the leveling. I mean, I could have paid for the leveling, but it's easier just to put that in there. And the money on the excavators is not wasted, simply because we can put those into the actual construction office. So what we're going to do is put in here. Of course, we're going to have to auto build this, because otherwise this won't work. Come here, asphalt and gravel, because this is just going to be a road crew. We need to set the auto detect up. Probably don't need the we don't want electrical wire, we just want roads, battery connections and roads. Set you to 2000. I'm going to turn the auto purchase off, clear that, because we should have a truck down here somewhere who is going to be delivering the fuel. 30% would be quite nice. And then what we're going to do is we need going to buy a couple of pavers, a couple of actually I'm just going to buy 3 pavers and 3 rollers, because we're going to be probably laying a lot of roads out here. And then what we're going to do is just fill up the rest with dumpers. We got any new vehicles? Again, on the similar vein I was talking about with the farm, what you've got to do is start paying attention to what you've got available with respect to your vehicles. And of course, if you're using mods, you can check your mods. We still haven't got really past the T138 at the moment. So we'll go, I mean, year 62, year 70. Now this dumper here, it carries a lot, but it's very slow. It's useless for road building, but it's very useful if you're actually servicing a quarry. That's 65. Now these are still the best. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just put 8 in there. Just let the game run. What I want to do is just get them to build all these roads out here in preparation for when we build an oil refinery here. And because they don't need workers, they can just get on and do the job. And eventually what we'll do is get a connection to here. That's the main content of the video. I just want to do a little bit of a check here. And on the 27th of November, we've got one whole field here that's not been harvested. We got a couple of bits here, so we are going to take some losses. Let me just do a come here. We are clearing the fields, so maybe that extra covered hole has got enough of fire. Okay, this one could be a little bit more tricky. Aha. Let me just see. Oh, we got another one of our guys broken down here. We could lose our... Oh, I think the fire crew is going to get here, but it's going to be a little bit touch and go. He's got his blue flashing lights on. Yep, he's got those. And of course, a big factor is the fact that that could be put out by one building, but I think it illustrates that maybe we need another technical office out here on the road. I can't even see the road here, actually. Yeah, I think we're going to need a technical office out here to, because we're going to have this fuel depot. I think we're going to put in a, and this is a good example of why winter's the time you stress test your economy. Well, we got away with it, but at the same time we didn't. So I think, because this road's going to be quite important, so I think it's going to be quite important to actually put a snowplow out on this route here. Right, next thing I just want to do is just see what my rail guys are up to. It looks like they are, where are you working on? Where are you going? Because of course now I'm not, okay, he's picking up my second allocation here, but he's pushed out this way. But of course once he's finished this, he's making up the rules to according to what he wants to do, not me. Right, so he's doing okay. We just need to keep an eye on him. Yeah, we lost a big chunk of the harvest, but that's the way it goes. But this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any questions, feel free to chuck it in the video description. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.